What's going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome to the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS podcast here for week 12 of the NFL season. Howard, we're coming off of a nice Thanksgiving 3-game slate here, recording here on Friday. Again, I got some turkey in us, watched a couple of football games, some exciting, not some less exciting, depending on who you cheer for, but all in all, not a terrible day of football.
All in all, not a terrible day of football. I agree. The Bills Lions, I think, early on was a little bit of a disappointment. I mean, it was an exciting game. It was, fun to watch, but, from a fantasy or a DFS standpoint, Josh Allen did what he needed to do. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a good game. Diggs, a good game. I think the first game here, it was really about where the value was. Isaiah McKenzie really popped, and DJ Chark caught a touchdown, saw a few extra targets that you wouldn't normally see. So I like that. Cowboys Giants, obviously. I mean, it was a painful first half.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you were cheering for one or the other. I obviously rooting for the Giants, hoping that my wife would stay in a good mood all day. But nevertheless. But that game. I'd kind of say, with the exception of Ezekiel Elliott, I don't really think that game had
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. The 2 touchdowns for him. Yeah, that screwed me. I was playing a head-to-head with Sigma Chi 1012 or 1011 from our Discord.
Yeah.
Just threw it out there. It's like, anybody want to play for $5? Head-to-head on the Cowboys Giants game. I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones's garbage time touchdown gave him the win by I think less than a point, or maybe it was like a point or two that he beat me by. But he had Dalton Schultz and then Daniel Jones at that garbage time touchdown.
Did you play Cager? Is that what you did?
I did not play Cager.
Okay.
It was kind of funny. I know that you and I talked about it. I turned my pivot to Brock Wright actually instead of Cager. It cost me like $200 more in DFS, but my thought process was that Cager and whoever's going to be the tight end for the Giants was going to have to be tethered to the line,
right?
Given their injuries.
Yep. And the tight end position was Hawkinson scored a touchdown. Obviously, what was it? Was it Hendershot had the rushing touchdown?
So that was so annoying.
Yeah,
it was so annoying.
Such a Thanksgiving Day game where the Bills' 4th receiver essentially, and McKenzie has the big day. Knox didn't really do too much. It was Ezekiel Elliott, not Tony Pollard, that had the big fantasy day yesterday after Pollard had been blowing doors off, and then Mac Jones goes out and throws for 380 yards and 2 scores against Minnesota. You didn't have to pay up for Josh Allen. Mac Jones, the cheapest quarterback on the board, went out there and had the biggest performance.
Yeah, which, I mean, I don't think anybody saw it coming,
No.
not in the least. And, listen, it was a great effort on his part, man. I was really, listen, I'm obviously a diehard Jets fan, and I hate the Patriots to no end, but to see Mac Jones doing that, and I said it going into the game. I think I even said it in the chat room in the Discord that just wouldn't it be just this kind of a football season if this last game, if the third game was the one that popped.
Yeah. Listen, the one thing the Patriots offense hasn't been doing this year is pushing the ball downfield, and they just opened the game up, throwing the ball downfield, and the guys are making big plays. But there's a lot of, once again, sort of inconsistency with their play calling. The number of times they opened a drive with like a 1-yard swing pass to either Stevenson or a bubble screen to a receiver that went nowhere and put them in like 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, and just sort of like ruined, I felt, the start of a lot of those drives. And then, of course, the Patriots special teams ultimately would probably cost them that game. The kickoff returned alive for the touchdown. The running into the punter when you stop them on 4th and 3. And then I got to get your question there. Hunter Henry, was it a touchdown?
Yes.
Or was it not a touchdown?
It was a touchdown. I said it in the chat. I said it like over and over. That pissed me off because I get what the part of the film was that they saw where maybe the ball moved a little bit. but we've seen them call it before where the ball moves a little bit if the player still has control. And that's really what he did. He was bringing the ball into his body as that was happening. And so I thought it was a touchdown. And that's not just because I had Hunter Henry in the playbook.
I still don't think there's enough evidence to prove that ball ever hit the ground. His hand was under the football when it went down there, and then it rolled. I don't think there's a clear angle of that ball physically hitting the ground. The hand was right there. Somehow they decide to call it an incomplete pass, and then obviously Twitter erupts, showing numerous other times where similar plays were called touchdowns.
God bless Twitter, right?
And then they started tweeting out in 2018, the NFL actually removed the requirement to control the ball through the process of the ground or something like that. Like the ground can't cause an incompletion. Like there's this whole thing, and yet somehow that touchdown gets overturned. The Patriots lose by 7, and here they are. So encouraged that the Patriots offense is willing to throw the ball downfield. Encouraged that Devontae Parker came up and made some big catches down there on numerous occasions. Nelson Aguilar made some decent catches. Jacoby Myers. So if the Patriots offense is willing to push the ball downfield, maybe there'll be some fantasy goodness coming from them in the weeks coming. Also, Minnesota secondary, trash. So just absolute trash there. So that was our Thursday football games here. Let's get to the Sunday 11 game main slate here, Howard. Some interesting matchups, some injury news already coming out. Joe Mixon officially ruled out for Sunday's game there for Cincinnati against Tennessee. Got to be looking at Samaje Perine now as the likely starting running back in Cincinnati. Chris Evans probably moving into that third down back role. We know Matt Stafford has already been ruled out. Bryce Perkins going to make his NFL starting debut. Numerous players still listed as questionable throughout the week, so we're going to be sitting here as we record on Friday, waiting for the most updated practice reports. And then, of course, Sunday, got to be tuned in to the get all the inactives that we put out there. Listening to your show on Sunday morning with Fensty, following Coop and I right after that over on the Better Sports Network from 9 to 11 to give all the updated roster information. So with that said, let's start off at the quarterback position here. Top price quarterback on the slate is Patrick Mahomes. He's $8,200. He's home. He's against the Rams. Lamar Jackson is at $8,000 on the road against Jacksonville. Justin Fields is $7,400 on the road against the Jets, dealing with that separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder, or whatever they're going to call it, AC joint issue in the non-throwing arm. And then Justin Herbert's at $7K. I'll cut off the top 4 there. Thoughts on that grouping?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm never going to go against Patrick Mahomes, especially with the fact that the Rams defense is it's just really not what it was. So I have no problem paying up for him. I'd rather go with Justin Herbert in this game against Arizona than I would Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar Jackson. You know I do, but I mean, the team hasn't been performing the way it should. The receiving core is still banged up and a little bit of a mess. Yeah, Mark Andrews making his way back. I need to see, listen, I get it. The Jacksonville Jaguars are definitely a team that he's going to be able to pick up some rushing yards against. But, if I'm going to pay $8,000, I'd rather pay $8,200 for Mahomes or pay $1,000 less to Herbert, who I know is going to throw a ton.
Yep, and Keenan Allen obviously back for the Chargers last week was big for them. Josh Palmer, monster game, even with Mike Williams going out. We don't know
Gerald off the injury report.
Yep, and who's the worst team in the NFL against tight ends?
Oh, that'd be Arizona.
So we don't know Mike Williams' status obviously quite yet, but still plenty of weapons for Herbert to come through with a big game. I agree at $7K. I have Jackson actually in my fade section of the quarterback coach this week because $8,200 is just too expensive. He's given us. Hasn't given us more than 20 fantasy points since week 3, right? I think there was maybe one game in there. He's given one time since week 3. He's given us over 20 fantasy points. So it's just too expensive for me to trust at that price. Fields is the interesting one because it's his non-throwing shoulder, but do they want him running if he's dealing with that AC joint sprain, if he's dealing with the shoulder separation and risk taking some blows there in his arm? To me, that there's some question to that spot. So I'm going to go Mahomes and Herbert as I rank them. And then I'm going to go throw Tua in there. I know he's under $7K. You're talking about the top quarterbacks on the slate here. For me, Tua is it.
Yeah, I think Tua is definitely the guy that you're going to have to go to in that spot. My one question is because I think I might even consider Burrow over Tua only because Mike McDaniel could run the ball a ton against Houston. Mm-hmm. You've got Jeff Wilson, you've got Raheem Mostert. I know Raheem Mostert's banged up and sitting there on the on the injury report. But I do kind of, it's not that I don't care. I get it. You got Waddle and you've got Tyreek Hill, and they're going to perform well. The question is are you better served paying down a little bit because of, just because you are going to need some value on this slate. There are some great situations that you want to invest in and whatnot. But like for Tua, is he going to pass as much as we want him to there at home? Or do we look to like Joe Burrow, who's like a couple hundred cheaper, getting back Jamar Chase? Whether Chase is a decoy or not, is we can talk about that later. But to be in this situation against Tennessee, who they're just going to run the ball heavy, and they've got a weak secondary, wouldn't you prefer to pay down for Burrow?
Well, let me ask you about that then. Tennessee's defense lately has actually looked pretty good. They held the Chiefs to 20 points, needed an overtime game. Denver, they held to 10, but Denver. Green Bay, they hold to 17. Have they started to, gel together a little bit better? Does Vrabel have them on the right path? Because you're right. Earlier this year, they were one of the worst defenses in football. But this is a defense that hasn't allowed more than 20 points in 5 weeks. They allowed 10 to Indy, 10 to Houston, 20 to KC, 10 to Denver, 17 to Green Bay. Sure. Yeah, I agree with you that Cincinnati's offense is, they're comparable to Kansas City, right? And they went on the road to Kansas City there and held them to an overtime game. So I just wonder if Vrabel's got that defense going good. If Chase isn't fully good to go, there's no Mixon now. That offensive line still trash. They had 10 sacks in 2 of the last 3 games combined. So I have Burrow in the quarterback coach, but I am also very willing to accept the down gain here from Cincinnati.
Interesting. Well, what if I threw like devil's advocate at you and I said, well, they only gave up 10 points to the Colts. The Colts are shitty, right? The Colts are, you had Sam Ehlinger under center over there. Then you go up against Davis Mills and the Texans, and that's, that was Derrick Henry versus Dameon Pierce. The Chiefs at home, especially when they're favored by more than 7.5, are not a team that like really performs that well at home. Like the under is hitting unbelievably there. And so that aspect there. And then the Broncos are garbage and Aaron Rodgers is sitting there with a broken thumb.
Yep.
Sucking balls for the Packers. So I'm willing to say that it was a nice stretch of games for Tennessee, but the personnel is still the personnel. And if you're going up against a high octane offense, then so I'm gonna play devil's advocate there. I'll still stand by Burrow. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that their defense, and I gave credit to the opponents, right? They haven't played great opponents. The test going into Kansas City was probably the biggest one that I felt they had an opportunity, kind of showing where they're at. So, again, I think Burrow can certainly have a big game. I just want to throw it out there that if Tennessee is for real and that pass rush is getting to them, then we know the Bengals don't do well against pressure. Now there are no mix in there. So I think an obvious pivot off of Burrow is Geno, home off a bye against Las Vegas, right? I think a lot of people are going to be going there. We got Lockett and Metcalf going up against the Raiders secondary. It's going to be a pretty popular game stack on the flip side. $5,700, Derek Carr. He's only throwing to one man, and apparently that's all he's got to do, right? Because teams just aren't covering Devontae Adams. So Derek Carr's only throwing Devontae Adams, and 18, 17, 23 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns in each of the last 3 games. If this one goes into a shootout, 36, 38, 37 pass attempts for Derek Carr here. I guess maybe the weather in Seattle is something to watch, but the little DraftKings icon says rain. It's Seattle in November, probably going to have some sort of precipitation. So we'll wait.
Looking at something.
We'll see exactly how bad it is or not come game time. But That one I think has the highest game total on the board as well. So,
Second highest.
Second highest, yeah. So,
Chiefs Rams is the highest.
Chiefs Rams, ugly. Don't know why that would be.
No. It's Arizona Chargers.
Okay, that makes sense. Arizona Chargers makes sense. So Geno at 6K, I like. Burrow could be, maybe Burrow goes overlooked because you have Tua at 69 and you have Geno at 6K. Maybe people are a little bit the slate's highest game total, Kyler Murray against the Chargers there at 68. So, I don't think it's wrong to get Burrow exposure. I'm a little bit skeptical with it being on the road, given at least the perception of the current Tennessee defense.
Okay, I mean, listen, man, I'm definitely understanding of that. Let's pull further down here. Any thoughts on Tom Brady?
Not really. It is very cheap though. Again, he's not giving you the ceiling we need at this point. He's been very snake bitten. A lot of these 1 touchdown games, he's thrown to passes where guys get tackled at the 2, and then Leonard Fournette's been like running them in. So, he could very easily have a multi-touchdown game coming, but it's not my favorite spot for him. When I looked at the value tier this week on the quarterback coach, it was Carr. And it was, who was the other one that I looked at? Oh, Garoppolo at 56. You can't really argue with what Jimmy G's been putting up for production lately. Against the Chargers, he had 16 fantasy points. Maybe that was his worst game, but 2 touchdowns or more now in 5 of the last 6. He's got plenty of weapons around him now. CMC, Samuel, Kittle, Ayuk finding the end zone. And at his price point, again, at $5,600, you don't need him to do a ton. If he gives you what he gave you against the Rams, 235 and 2 scores, you're kind of sitting there fine at 17 fantasy points, 17 and a half. So I don't mind Garoppolo here at home against the Saints at $5,600.
Yeah, I don't really mind Garoppolo either at that point, especially because one of the big weaknesses for the Saints, at least from a defensive line standpoint, is pass catching running backs. Have been getting to them a little bit, and let's face it, you can't find a better pass catching running back out there than Christian McCaffrey at this point. Yeah. Can you?
Nope.
I mean, I like that. I mean, here's the thing is that I do feel like at the quarterback position can be very tricky this week because you've got high priced guys in great spots, but you've also got a significant amount of value in this. Mm-hmm. If you look to Geno Smith or Derek Carr as $6K and under, as guys who you feel like you can invest in. Garoppolo is the same way. It makes your lineup construction that much more difficult because you don't want to miss on your quarterback,
right?
So do we? Or are we into the value as that much here? Or do we still turn around and say, you know what, you got to pay for a Justin Herbert?
I think it depends on how we build the rest of the lineup, right? If there's value at running back, do you really want to play Samaje Perine this week? He had 3 receiving touchdowns last week, right?
Don't.
But he's going to be low in the mid. Like, we'll go to running back right now. CMC's at 80.
Whoa. We're not going to talk Mike White?
No. No, we're not. We're not going to talk about
All right, we will talk Mike White when we get to the value running backs because I've got some data for you that you might want to look at.
Sure, but Michael Carter at $5,400, I mean, people will go to him because of how many times he checked down to the running back last season. That's good for Michael Carter. It didn't really do anything for Mike White's fantasy value. So
No, it did not, which is why I said I would go to talk about it when we talk value.
No, we were talking about it running back 100%. Christian McCaffrey.
30%. How about that? 30% of Mike White's targets in the 4-game stretch that he was in last year, 30% just over 30% went to running backs.
Right. I remember that both running backs, Ty Johnson and Michael Carter last year, were fantasy viable because they were catching so many footballs. Like it was insane. All right. CMC's your top price guy at 88. Eckler's at 85. Henry's at 83. If you put them in your lineups, no one's going to sit there and argue too much with you there. They all have tremendous ceilings, being able to do what they do. Josh Jacobs, if it is going to be a rainy day in Seattle at 7,700, certainly a guy that's going to find his way into lineups. He ran all over Denver again, 24 for 109 in that game. We talked about that, and it came through. If you paid for it, it worked. Kenneth Walker on the flip side of that matchup, again, if it's going to rain, he's in. Even if it's not going to rain, they just like using Kenneth Walker. I'm not going to hold the Tampa Bay game against them. Nobody runs on Tampa Bay. It's just a tough spot to do so. That whole grouping there, I think they're fine. The only one I probably would say like not as in is Nick Chubb. Not really going to be in on Nick Chubb here against Tampa Bay. Super contrarian play. Let us all down
against. Like his center is out. His center has missed the last 2 weeks, and that's what they're doing. The one thing I will say though is that Vita Vea is questionable for Tampa Bay.
Sure.
So if Vita Vea is questionable, if he sits, I think that kind of neutralizes the lack of experience for the Browns center, and it makes Chubb a little bit more attractive. Still in a contrarian sense, I agree with you. There's way too much around him that you would want to invest in. Like, I mean, immediate pay downs for Jacobs and Walker, I think.
Yep, 100%. In the mid 6K range, I actually think James Conner's in a good spot this week. Getting Kyler Murray back and Hollywood Brown, I think, is expected to debut here this week and whatnot. Chargers, we know their run defense is trash, so $6,600. I think David Montgomery is in a really good spot this week. I know the Jets' run defense has been pretty decent, but I don't think Fields is going to run as much this week as he had in the past because he can't take too many hits to that shoulder, right? In my opinion, if it's already damaged. And there's no Herbert here. I think we're going to get maybe a ceiling carry game, like number of touches for David Montgomery in this 1 year. And we know he can also catch the football. So I kind of like Monty at his price at 64. And then
I'll tell you what, the question I have about this is if Fields has a bum shoulder and he's still starting, why wouldn't the Jets stack the box? You've got a decent secondary. You put Sauce Gardner on Darnell Mooney if you want to shadow somebody in some press man coverage. So what would prevent the Jets from kind of stacking that box against Montgomery, knowing that you got to watch for Fields to take off and run.
Yeah.
You know that his shoulder's not good and his throwing has never been his strong suit anyway, so why wouldn't you take that away from him?
They do anyways, right? Isn't that how teams approach defending the Chicago Bears anyways? They prepare to stop the run. So I don't think they're going to be defended any differently than they would be normally. But if you do sort of try to crash the middle too much, that's going to leave the read option for Fields to run on the outside. I mean, so you can't really stack it too much there because if he gets to the outside edge, he's going to beat all your linebackers. So,
right.
The read option's still going to play a heavy part of this game, and it's his non-throwing shoulder, so he can still throw the football a little bit. So, I just think from a pure volume standpoint, Monty could be in a good spot. Plus, he does catch the football. So, 64 is there. Chalk play will be Jeff Wilson over 17 for 119. Last week he played, I think it was 60% of the offensive snaps too. So Mostert taking the back seat there, and I think what's going against Mostert, obviously he's also questionable for this game, is the fact that he's their kick returner, right? And the fact that he's their kick returner, I don't think bodes too well for him so much now that they have another legitimate running back because he's not going to get that first series, he's not going to get that first drive.
I gotcha. I mean, listen, are you trying to convince me that Jeff Wilson's the chalk?
Yeah. I think
that's what you're trying to convince me?
Well, no, I don't think I'm trying to convince you. I just think he's going to be very popular. I think a lot of people will look at his production last week and then look at the Houston matchup.
Oh, easily. There's no question about it. There's no question about who the chalk is. For that. Yeah, listen, I'm not, Mostert also dealing with a knee issue. It's not something, that I'm really that into. I think, you have to be looking at
back-to-back DNPs for Mostert too, so not even limited. So, yeah, he's probably going to be ruled out if he doesn't practice today. So,
which makes Jeff Wilson that much more attractive. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I am. I agree. No arguments. Would you play Gus Edwards?
No,
Okay.
I'm not really that interested in Gus. It's just, again, the Baltimore offense. I don't know really what to expect out of it. I don't know how healthy his ankle is. And yeah, listen, if Mixon is out, um, would I have more interest in Pirine? Maybe. Would I have more interest in Pacheco at a lower cost? Yeah, probably. Would I have more interest in Antonio Gibson against Atlanta? All of these guys I'd much rather use than Michael Carter. Much rather use than Gus Edwards.
What about Latavius Murray at 5K?
Deal with a little. He's kind of banged up a little bit.
It's a wrist. He's fine.
Marlon Mack could eat those.
Marlon Mack is not eating anything.
Listen, you know what the thing is? I have zero interest in investing in anything in the Denver offense anymore. Okay. I really do. I don't give a shit if Murray is the only running back there. I don't give a shit if Cortland Sutton's the only wide receiver out there. The fact remains that this team is trash. Their play calling is horrendous. What?
No, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
It's very bad. Play calling is very bad.
So why would there's no reason. And I even said this to people in season-long leagues. Go ahead. Go grab Latavius Murray off of the waiver wire. He's probably better than if you're rolling out Tyler Algier still. Mm-hmm. So get yourself Latavius Murray. Just keep your expectations in check because it's a bad offense. And just because you're the top guy in this horrendous offense doesn't mean that you're going to be productive.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people will look at Donta Foreman in that sense, where Donta Foreman was in a very bad offense and it was able to pop off for some big games. Latavius Murray does have 3 touchdowns in the last 4. So whenever the Broncos are actually scoring a touchdown, and it's been Latavius being the one that's punching the ball in for them, and he does have 7 catches the last 2 weeks, so a little PPR goodness there for DraftKings. At 5K against Carolina, I mean, is it great? Not really, but he is the only show in town. I think Foreman is also a little bit interesting because we talked about teams have been running on Denver. Sam Darnold making his starting debut. Not that really impacts much, but this could be a spot where they just pound the ball with Foreman here against a Denver defense, which we know again. We just saw Jacobs tear them apart. Pacheco's super interesting. I think maybe Jerick McKinnon is a bit more interesting as a value play because there is no CEH to catch the football. From a PPR perspective, it could be something. Pacheco's obviously getting the workload, but he's not scoring. So 5,500 for 13 fantasy points. I guess if he scores a touchdown, he gets it there, but still not a great. Doesn't feel like the greatest situation there.
No, it doesn't feel like the greatest situation.
What about are you doing anything with the Rams running backs?
No, I'm not. Listen, if I'm in a season-long league, Kyren Williams obviously has a little bit more appeal. And I just wrote my article in the New York Post about this, looking at the quarterback changes that we've witnessed now over the week and where you can get some value if you're in a PPR format. And I looked at Michael Carter, I looked at Chuba Hubbard, and I looked at Kyren Williams. They're 3 pass-catching running backs, all of whom have quarterbacks now who are going to probably live and die by the check down and the pass out to the flat. Sure. So, I definitely I kind of eyeball that situation as well for that. You skipped over Rachaad White.
Well, isn't Fournette playing?
I don't know. Is he? I know he's still questionable.
Yeah, limited practice participation. If Fournette's going to play, it feels hard for me to... Rachaad White went 22 for 105 because Fournette didn't come back in that game. When Fournette's in playing, though, 6, 7, 4, 5, 7, that's not a great fantasy value. So
listen, dude, I feel the need to have to ask you anybody that even sniffs a fart from Tom Brady. I feel like I need to bring him up to you just to make sure.
No, only if he's starting, sure. If Fournette gets ruled out, 100% play Rachaad White, but Fournette's going to be in there still getting double-digit carries. White's going to have to break one of his few touches that he gets there, in my opinion. So, no, not in on White.
Not in on White. All right. I figured I would just have to ask you that. As far as like anything further down in value, I don't really.
I said
see
McKinnon.
anything.
I think McKinnon maybe.
Yeah, maybe
12 catches, 16 targets in weeks 10 and 9. No CEH now. I mean, could be a spot.
Yeah, 47. It's not bad.
Not bad.
It's not bad. Let's go to wide receivers.
Okay, top guys: Hill,
Tyreek.
Adams, Hopkins, Chase, Waddle. Pick your poison.
I don't really have a poison to pick. They're all great. Like Hill, Hopkins with Kyler Murray, yes.
And maybe a Hollywood Brown return to take some pressure off,
Maybe, yep. And Devontae Adams against Seattle. Now, Seattle still okay in coverage. Like that was one of the kind of the interesting things that we talked about, or we have talked about. And I don't know if you've tracked the data since, but Seattle was not giving up a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver position. It was the running backs and the tight ends that were getting to them.
Mm-hmm.
So are you confident in Devontae Adams, or is this more, hello Josh Jacobs, hello Foster Moreau?
I don't think it's ever really hello Foster Moreau, but Jacobs. The thing with Devontae Adams, it's like, who cares who's on him, right? He 9 for 126 against Stephon Gilmore. Denver has some decent cornerbacks, 7 for 141. It doesn't really appear to matter who's defending him. He just goes out and has big games as long as Derek Carr is willing to throw him the football 13, 15 times. So it's like a war of attrition. At some point, Devontae Adams will beat you. It's just
At some point he will. Yeah.
At some point he's gonna beat you. You just hope he doesn't beat you twice like he did Denver. You're in overtime. The only way this game ends right here is a touchdown, and you lose track of where the best player on the field is. How do you?
I mean, please, if that wasn't so Denver, I don't know what is.
Wide open Devontae Adams in overtime for like a 40-yard touch. Like, what are you doing? He's that's the one man you don't forget. Where's 18 or whatever number he is, right? Like, cover that guy. So,
Aaron Rodgers just watching that game on TV.
Yeah.
I miss you like crazy.
Maybe Aaron Rodgers shouldn't have asked for the most expensive quarterback contract, and they would have been able to keep him. So. Hopkins is good. I'm worried about chasing his return. GBP only play.
Me too.
Pick Waddle or Hill. Both are fine. One's less expensive. Usually that one's the one that gets the rostership. Mid-tier guys, Christian Kirk coming back off their bye week. He's been looking really good. Baltimore secondary keeps on kind of sucking. So I don't mind the 6,500 there. I think
it's a tough coverage spot for him, actually. I was kind of eyeballing some things and looking at Kyle Hamilton, who's the slot corner, because Christian Kirk plays like almost 80% of his snaps come out of the slot.
Sure.
And Kyle Hamilton's actually been really good working out of the slot since he took over as the slot corner. So I like Christian Kirk, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not as like the Ravens secondary. The Ravens defense has kind of shifted a little bit in recent weeks, and it's definitely gotten a lot better. Even just the addition of Roman Quinn has just changed around the attitude of this defense. So it's something I'm just wary of right now because me, man. I love me some Trevor Lawrence. I love me some Christian Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
But so there is a little bit of concern there. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, in the mid tier, you also have more favorable plays: Metcalf, Ayuk, Lockett, Keenan Allen. I mean, pick one, put him in. Pick two, put him in. Like that's fine. Keenan Allen at $6,100 is a free square this week, right? You just plug in Keenan Allen. Mike Williams or no Mike Williams, you're gonna play Keenan Allen at $6,100. It's just. He's too good of a player to be that cheap. So
yeah. If you can fit him,
why wouldn't
I'm playing around. I got a lineup here that it does not have Keenan Allen in it.
Well, it does. It can't include Herbert. Then I imagine
it does not include Herbert.
There you go. I think Keenan Allen is just a lock play for me, especially in cash games. I mean, if you're playing cash games, you're gonna play Keenan Allen. Terry McLaurin at 58. Heineke's still the quarterback. Gets Atlanta. I'm gonna keep running back to that. Well,
Did you pass over Metcalf and Lockett?
No, I said it. I mentioned them. I said Metcalf, Lockett, Keenan Allen, Brandon Ayuk. You can play all of them.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. I didn't hear Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, no. You can play them all. They're all going to be in play in this one. Weather
All of
pending. If it's going to be a windy, rainy day, they won't be. But
we shall see.
We shall see. So no, I think you could probably just pick 3 of these guys honestly and build your lineup around them. So all of them are fine. Like I said, I like McLaurin, Juju, assuming he's good to go, which he returned to practice. So I imagine he would be. I don't mind. That's a really good price tag at 57.
Love that.
Josh Palmer at 54. If there's no Mike Williams, I know you're
correct.
You like Gerald Everett, but Palmer hard to overlook that spot there. And then where are you going for your value wide receivers?
Value wide receivers, kind of interesting as far as like who I'm looking at. I gotta tell you, man, I think it's absolutely hysterical. I've got Curtis Samuel at $5K on DK and Drake London at 4,900. Now I get it, right? Samuel works better with Carson Wentz. Drake London doesn't get very many balls thrown his way, but I mean, these matchups have been really, really nice. So I dig on both of those guys as well. Call me crazy, man, but I kind of dig Robert Woods a little bit against Cincinnati's horrible secondary.
You wouldn't want to go Treylon Burks for min
price? I would. Did I get down to that price tag yet?
No, but
okay, man. Why you gotta rush me like that, man?
I'm just picking one over the other. I'd rather.
Why you gotta rush me like that? I'm just telling you, guys. I'm interested in, man. Shit.
Well, I just don't have any interest in Woods, so I'd rather play.
Go ahead, Johnny. Why don't you just take over, man?
What's your Tampa Bay slot cornerback situation looking like? Can we go back to Donovan Peoples-Jones here, or What's your
Cleveland? You mean?
Yeah, but Tampa Bay's got the defense on it, so like, where's their? I don't know. Another 17 fantasy points for our
another 17 fantasy points. Yeah,
I mean, get the garbage time touchdown, so take.
You're gonna see a lot of Jamel Dean on Amari Cooper, so that definitely kind of opens things up. I mean, I think that Donovan Peoples-Jones against, God, who the hell's the other? Who's the other corner on that team? It was somebody, then he got hurt.
They keep on rotating guys because of injuries. I never know who's in that secondary anymore.
Right, I know. That's why I'm going to go look at their depth chart right now because I know where Jamel Dean is. Oh, Carlton Davis. Yeah, all right. So I mean, Donovan Peoples-Jones maybe against a little Carlton Davis. That's kind of sexy. And then I worry about where they deploy Antoine Winfield now that he's healthy and stuff.
Does that go into Njoku, you think?
I worry about Njoku. I worry about, even Peoples-Jones because they'll, if Antoine Winfield's not locking down on the tight end, then he's drifting over to help in coverage somewhere.
Okay.
And I don't think Jamel Dean needs help in coverage against Amari Cooper. I think you're more looking at him helping out Carlton Davis against Peoples-Jones.
Okay. Mac Hollins is at $4,400. Gave you nice little bounce back game after the dud that he threw to us the week prior. Treylon Burks is at 42. Monster game that he's coming off of. People certainly will be point chasing this one, but he's the most talented receiver on that team. So 7 of 8 targets for 111 yards. He gave us some. I think this is just the best is yet to come with him. So. I don't mind.
I agree. I think he's a good, probably like a good cash game pay down for this week because of all the point chasers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're building that lineup, you know that you're locking in Jeff Wilson because everybody's going to be in on him. You're going to lock in like Keenan Allen because of his price and the targets that he gets. Treylon Burks is another one of those names that, I mean, listen, a guy has 100-yard effort. Everybody's in on him the following week. I had people asking me in season-long questions if they should drop guys like really strong guys. I wish I could remember the Somebody asked me, I believe it was Terry McLaurin. Should I drop Terry McLaurin for Treylon Burks?
Yeah, no, don't do
that. I think somebody asked if they should drop Ayuk for Treylon Burks.
Yeah, well, people,
somebody asked about dropping Olave for Treylon Burks.
The little birds are all about what have you done for me lately, right? So you see the young rookie with a big breakout game, and they're like, "Ooh, I don't want to miss out." everybody remembers like the OBJ season, right? I think that's the problem where he missed the first half. He comes back and he was basically the wide receiver 101 for, the final like 7 games of the year or something like that. And they're like, oh, first round pick wide receiver. Like, here we go. You'll get those same questions like next week when Jameson Williams plays, like, who do I drop for Jameson Williams? And it's like, well, let's see what he does first. Point chasing Demarcus Robinson's 9 for 128. Any interest? 4,300.
No, not really. I don't have. I like it, but for a couple hundred less, who I'd rather have? I'd rather have Nico Collins this week.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you about that same price range. If Russell Gage is out again, would you play Julio Jones?
That's a possibility. It's a pretty soft matchup against Denzel Ward.
Okay, here's an update, Howard. Texans head coach Lovie Smith announces that Kyle Allen will be their starting quarterback this week.
Oh yeah, I know. Really, is that? See, it's so funny because when I was writing my article for the Post, my editor asked me about. He was like, "You don't mention Kyle Allen in here," and I was like, "Does Kyle Allen replacing Davis Mills? Does that really change anything? They're the same guy. It's the same offense." Dameon Pierce is your full-time back. So it's not really upping his value very much. It's not really doing, anything, but, listen, Kyle Allen he's as good a passer as Davis Mills, which, it's not great, but when you're going up against Miami and when you're going up, when you're sitting in catch-up mode.
Sure.
And Keon Crossan is the cornerback who's trying to keep pace with Collins, who has a size advantage and a speed advantage on him. I'll take a couple of garbage time work out of Nico Collins before I go point chasing on Demarcus Robinson or hunt down Julio Jones.
Sure. And then the last guy I have at wide receiver is Kendall Hinton. I know you're not a Denver guy. He's $3,700. He had 3 for 57 last week. He had 4 for 62 the week before that. He was very close to getting a touchdown. They just happened to rule that his foot was out of bounds, which, okay, fine. It's his heel touched out of bounds there when he was reaching across the goal line. Kendall Hinton's interesting at 37 if KJ Hamler's out again.
Okay, I'll give it to him. He'll never touch my lineups.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I don't set enough lineups for that to even be a guy who I want to take a look at.
Okay.
Again, because it's Denver. Denver sucks, dude.
Yeah.
It sucks. Was it you or Sells who sent me the message that if Denver only scored 19 points a game or 18 points a game, they'd be 9-1 this season.
Yeah, that's a Sells message. That wasn't mine. No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying for a mid-price guy that started and played, or near mid-price guy that started and played all those snaps, there's just some interest there. So.
Dude, Olamide Zaccheaus plays a shit ton of snaps.
Yeah, but they throw more. They throw more in Denver than they do in Atlanta.
Do they really throw that much more in Denver?
Yes. Yes, they do.
What are you saying? 32 to 35 passes instead of 22 to 25 passes?
Yeah. I mean, there have been multiple games where he's thrown under 20 passes this season. So,
let's see. Players I'd rather use than Kendall Hinton. Ben Skoranek.
Why would you play Ben Skoranek with Bryce Perkins at quarterback?
Because why would I play anybody from Denver with Nathaniel Hackett as their coach?
I'm just saying, for offensively, they're going to throw the ball more.
I'm just saying, just because they're throwing the ball, John, doesn't mean that these guys are worth anything.
Opportunities, Howard. Opportunities.
See, that's the thing. You're grasping at straws.
It's not a grasp at straws. I'm looking at his production. I'm looking at his snap counts the last 2 weeks. He's under $4,000. So it's not grasping at straws.
Right, and you're telling me that Kendall Hinton is a guy that you want to lock into either A, your cash lineup, or B, your primary GPP
Would never use him in a cash lineup, but I think he's worthy of a spend down in GPPs, yeah.
How many lineups do you have to create in order to put Kendall Hinton into one of those lineups?
I played him last week in one of my 3 maxes.
Really?
Yes.
Did you cash?
It wasn't because I played.
You can just say no. I don't need to know any other details about it.
But it wasn't because of him.
Put him in.
It wasn't because of him. He's $3,200. He had 8 fantasy points.
There's no upside to that. Yeah, Kendall Hinton's not going to pop for 20 fantasy points. That's what you want from your friggin' bargains in a GPP.
No, I don't. I want him to not give me a 0 so I can spend up for Devontae Adams at $3,700. That's what I want from him. I don't even go for...
How many times do you see a Millie Maker lineup with a guy who's sitting in there that's like under 5 points?
Well,
under
the
8
odds of
points.
winning a Millie Maker are very low anyways. So I mean,
all right, go to any other tournaments then. Go to any of the other tournament winners.
But he's not going to have under 5 fantasy points. That's what I'm saying. If he's playing the role he's been playing, there's upside for him in that spot. Again, he had 10 fantasy points in week 10. He had 8.7 in week 11. If he's going to be out there as the only 2 starting wide receivers on Denver because they don't have KJ Hamler or Jerry Jeudy active, I would take an opportunity to throw him in a lineup. That's all I'm saying. $3,700.
I feel like that's I mean, listen, I'm not a multi-lineup guy. I'd rather just do like 1 or 2.
Well, you mentioned Ben Skoranek. He's had 3 points and 1 point the last 2 weeks. So,
yeah, I'm just saying I'd rather take a shot on him for like a GPP upside than than anybody on Denver. You know what? Denver sucks, dude. Denver sucks. Yes, you can cherry pick certain values that you're getting from somewhere in the Denver Broncos, but overall, this is not a team that you can trust. I'm not gonna sit here and tell people who are listening to this podcast that's a smart investment. I get what you're saying as far as his opportunity goes, but Denver has been such an unpredictable, shit-sucking offense this entire season. Like, if you're looking for value down at that end, there certainly has to be better situations to find.
I mean, we'll have to do some more digging. I guess if Rondale Moore and Hollywood Brown don't come back and Greg Dortch gets on the field, he's $3,100. Maybe Greg Dortch would be a guy, if he's active against the Chargers. There's some potential there, But again, it would all depend on the status of the Cardinals wide receivers and whether or not Dortch himself gets on the field. But there's really not a lot better down here. I mean, what
about Elijah Moore, knowing that they're going to have to shorten up the passing game, knowing that Chicago's slot corner sucks?
Yeah, but he's not even playing.
What are you talking about? He's not playing. He just got back into it. What are you talking about?
He's barely playing. What was the snap count last week?
I don't know. I'll tell you right now. His snap count last week was 54%. Okay. That sounds like playing to me.
You'd rather Mike White in the Jets.
I'm just saying, week 10, he was on a bye.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 games, Elijah Moore's snap count has been 45% and 54%.
Yeah, 0 for 0, 0 on 1 target, 0 for 0. That's his production.
Well, he had 4 targets this past week.
Okay. I'm
just saying, dude. He had 4 targets this past week. You want to cherry pick stats? I can cherry pick.
But his numbers are worse than Hinton's have been the last 2 weeks.
Of course they were, but now you're talking about a different quarterback and a different situation and a different game plan and a different defense that sucks as much and if not worse than Carolina's defense.
I would be very surprised to see Elijah Moore do anything more than what he's been doing. So.
All right, let's bet then, you and me. Elijah Moore versus Kendall Hinton this week, fantasy points, just straight up DK fantasy points.
Sure, assuming of course there's no Hamler or Jeudy in the lineup.
Oh, okay.
This has always been contingent.
If I want to put assumptions on it, I can put assumptions on it.
It's always been contingent on the fact that Hamler and Jeudy are out. That's why I said if he's starting, Kendall Hinton at $3,700 is a good fantasy play. If Hinton is starting and there's no Hamler and Jeudy, I'll take that bet. Hinton over Moore.
Right. So we will we'll have to update later on here.
We'll follow it up on next week's show. All right, let's go to tight end here. Wasting too much time.
Yeah, let's go to tight ends.
3K
fucking Travis Kelce, dude. That's it.
I mean, I won't argue too much. He's very good. If you can fit him in your lineup, you can fit him in your lineup. Everett at 44.
I'm either paying up for him or I'm paying down for Gerald Everett, and the rest of them can suck balls.
Yeah, Everett at 44. I don't really see a lot else, honestly. Noah Fant at 32, maybe. But that's what he's been.
Noah Fant at 32 is definitely a possibility because of the way the Vegas Raiders play the tight end or don't play the tight end.
Yeah, and he's been their pass catching tight end this year, according to Coop, based off of our conversation the other day. So after that, I got nothing else for you. Austin Hooper. Any Austin Hooper love? 2 touchdowns last week.
I mean, listen, if you're punting the position completely, if you're just punting it, then Austin Hooper at 3K is worth it. Jordan Akins at 2,700.
Sure.
I mean, again, if you're strictly just punting the position completely.
Logan Thomas got 6 targets last week.
Logan Thomas did get 6 targets last week.
So,
don't know if he's healthy though.
Yeah, he's never healthy. All right. That's where our tight ends are. It's a bad position. If you want to go Foster Moreau, like you could, but again, 1 catch, 3 targets last week. He's not a very high value, high usage pass catching tight end. So,
which again, also note the fact that Denver has been soft against tight end coverage in recent weeks as well. So that makes it even that much more disappointing for Foster Moreau.
Right.
Because if you got to talk about the matchups here.
Agreed. Defense.
I'm paying down for the Chiefs at 2,800.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will go there. Bryce Perkins running the RPOs.
Yeah,
good sack totals for the Chiefs, and they're at home. A lot of good things. A lot of good things working up for the Chiefs there. 28. Let's see. Is there
I mean, listen, you can pay up for the 49ers. I'm fine with that. I actually don't even mind paying up for the Broncos at 38, given that it's Sam Darnold they're going up against.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Trying to think of who else in
the
middle
Commanders
there.
With Chase Young home, 5 sacks.
Yep. Definitely a possibility there. Definitely a possibility.
Jets defense isn't bad.
I mean, Carolina's defense going up against stupid Denver.
Yeah, I mean they're home, right? I'm just looking at the Jets sack totals. 17 sacks the last 2 weeks. Going up against Justin Fields here.
I don't mind it, although Justin Fields doesn't take a ton of sacks, does he?
Yeah, he was like the last time I looked at the stat, he was sacked the 3rd most times in football. But
all right,
that may have since adjusted. That was after the Patriots game. So,
I mean, no Texans, no Rams, no Saints, no Jaguars, definitely no Raiders, no Cardinals.
Yeah, Panthers are definitely interesting. Panthers are definitely an interesting defense.
Yeah, and I'm probably not doing the Browns either. So yeah, I guess I'm pretty much looking at the Chiefs being the cheapest I would go.
Yep, I agree with
you. Falcons not too bad on defense either. Strangely enough, the Falcons are not that bad on defense. They're opportunistic. They get some turnovers.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Wish they sacked more. That's my biggest thing. They don't get after the quarterback enough.
Well, when you only have Grady Jarrett and he's already being double teamed every single time he's on the field,
I know
it's pretty tough. It's pretty
tough.
All
right, let's build. You have a lineup built already. What does it look like?
I do. I got Geno Smith under center.
Okay.
I got Jeff Wilson and Michael Carter as my running backs. Pay down. Devontae Adams, Tyler Lockett, Nico Collins. My tight end is Travis Kelce. My flex completes my Seattle stack of Noah Fant, joining the Seahawks there with the Chiefs D.
And the Chiefs D, 2,900. Good. Yeah, you get Travis Kelce in there. Can't argue with that. So
yeah, it's tough to get Adams and Kelce into the same lineup. I mean, because I wanted to make sure that I got, like, the problem that I have with this lineup is ideally I was thinking that I wanted Walker and or Jacobs in the lineup, but they're so pricey at this point that it makes it tough. So I mean, I would have to fade Adams.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a little tougher than, I don't know, maybe if I swap to the running backs, if I get more value if I pay up a little bit more for running back, maybe I go down to Andrews instead of Kelce at tight end and save myself like $1,200.
How set are you on Michael Carter?
I'm not. I was just looking for a pay down for a PPR format.
So I just did a quick mod on your lineup. Geno Smith, Jeff Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Tyler Lockett, Mac Hollins, Keenan Allen, Travis Kelce, Noah Fant, Chiefs defense, $0 remaining.
Okay. So getting in, do we need to get in Mac Hollins in there though? If you're gonna do,
well, I just swapped the receiver out to get from Adams basically. So I mean, you have $4,400 at a wide receiver. That was more expensive, I think, than Nico, right? Or is that where's Nico at? You could keep Nico in there if you wanted to. You don't have you go Jacobs and Nico Collins instead of Carter and Adams, and you get Keenan Allen in your lineup as well. So
yeah.
So it's a Josh Jacobs, Keenan Allen instead of Michael Carter, Devontae Adams. Seems like a higher upside play potentially.
I like it. Oh, there you go. You could do that. You could twist it around. Geno Smith, Jeff Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Lockett, Allen, Burks.
Yep.
Kelce, Fant, Chiefs.
You could also go Metcalf over Lockett, I think, right? 65.
Can you?
Yep.
Oh, I got it. If I stay with Collins over Burks, I can.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So if you wanted more GBP potential with Metcalf, right, like bigger plays, you could go him over that, or you could go Lockett, or you could go.
Collins is a better GPP guy as well. I think Burks is somebody we could probably use in cash just because of ownership.
Sure. I just want to try how you felt about Mac Hollins, Kyle Allen at quarterback. So
I don't love it.
All right. So I figured Mac Hollins gives you just another exposure to that stack, right? You get 2 Raiders to 1 charge to 2 Seahawks, right? So
ooh, some good stuff.
So anyways, that's our lineup here. Again, we'll have the playbook and dartboard out on Saturday. On Sunday will be the example lineups, and then on Sunday from 7 to 9, you get Fensty and Howard on Sirius XM. From 9 to 11, you have myself and Andrew Cooper on the Better Sports Network, getting you ready for all of the Sunday NFL action. Howard, any final thoughts here before we close out for Week 12?
Are you doing the playbook this weekend, or am I?
I thought you were doing the playbook this weekend.
Damn it. Okay, fine. I'll do
Soon I'm doing the playbook. Like 2 weeks, I think I'm on the playbook. So.
No, this is going to be I think this is going to be a very interesting slate. I think this slate is wide open. I think this slate is a lot more wide open than what we've seen throughout, I don't know, the last several weeks. The last several weeks, it's been a lot easier to just kind of hone in on certain situations, right? It's like, if you can't have Tyreek, then you pay down for Waddle. If you can't have Cooper, then you pay down to Peoples-Jones. Like, we've been doing a lot of pairing and kind of narrowing down the field, even more so for people. But I think that this week is so much more wide open than we've seen in most weeks. So it should be very interesting to see what happens. I'm going to have to go and maybe do some adjustments to the watch list today, which will kind of help me get into the groove for the playbook tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for sure. I was just trying to see if I could fit in Everett, but it would take a little bit more maneuvering there. To get all that to work in there. So anyways, that's our lineup. That's our look breakdown here of the Week 12. Howard and I will get ready for you all. If you have any questions, get us on Twitter, get us on Discord. Hang out with us on Sunday in the family room in the Discord as well. Come and watch games with us, react. No questions in there though. We're just there to have fun, hang out, talk some shop, and react to the games as they're happening. For Howard and I, we'll catch you guys next week.